The song Taylor Swift had secretly written for Jason Kelce's 38th birthday would reveal the depth of her understanding about the Kelce brothers' relationship and leave everyone in the room crying, including Travis, who would finally realize just how much his older brother had sacrificed for him over the years. November 7th, 2025, 6:30 p.m. The warm glow of candles filled Jason and Kylie Kelce's Philadelphia home as the smell of birthday cake and Kylie's famous lasagna created the perfect atmosphere for what was supposed to be a simple family celebration. Jason sat at the head of their dining room table, wearing the Eagles hoodie that Kylie had gotten him for his birthday, surrounded by the people he loved most in the world. The guest list was intentionally small: Kylie and the kids, Travis and Taylor, Ed and Donna Kelce, and Jason's closest friends from his playing days. It was exactly the kind of low-key celebration that Jason preferred, especially now that he was settling into retirement and focusing more on family time and his broadcasting career. The evening had started like any other Kelce family gathering, loud, chaotic, and full of the kind of love that comes from people who genuinely enjoy each other's company. The kids had been bouncing between adults, sharing stories about school and showing off new tricks they'd learned. Ed had been regaling everyone with stories about Jason's early football days, while Donna made sure everyone's plates were always full. "I can't believe you're actually 38, Travis said, reaching across the table to steal a piece of garlic bread from his brother's plate. "When did we get so old?" "Speak for yourself," Jason replied, swatting Travis's hand away with the reflexes that had made him one of the best centers in NFL history. "I'm in the prime of my life. Just because I'm not getting tackled by 300-pound defensive linemen anymore doesn't mean I'm old." "Right," Travis laughed. "That's why you needed help getting out of your chair after dinner last week." "That was because I'd been sitting on the floor playing Legos with the kids for 3 hours," Jason protested, which made everyone at the table laugh because they all knew it was true. Taylor Swift sat quietly next to Travis, picking at her lasagna and checking her phone nervously. She'd been unusually subdued all evening, which hadn't gone unnoticed by the family. Normally, Taylor was right in the middle of the conversation, laughing at Jason's stories and adding her own commentary about the brothers' competitive dynamics. "You okay, T?" Kylie asked from across the table, using the nickname that had become natural over the past 2 years. "You seem distracted tonight. Everything all right with the album?" "I'm fine," Taylor said quickly, then glanced at Travis. "Just thinking about dessert time." Travis looked at her with concern. He'd noticed her nervousness too, but he'd attributed it to the fact that she'd been working incredibly. Long hours in the studio lately. Her upcoming album was in its final stages, and he knew she was putting enormous pressure on herself to make it perfect. What no one in the room knew was that Taylor had been planning this moment for 3 months. Hidden in her Nashville studio was a song she'd been working on in secret, a tribute to Jason that had started as a simple thank you, but had evolved into something much more personal and profound. The idea had come to her during a family barbecue in August when she'd watched Jason automatically cut Travis's steak into smaller pieces without even thinking about it. When she'd asked Travis about it later, he'd laughed and said, "Jason's been doing that since I was 5. Old habits die hard, I guess." But it had made Taylor curious about their childhood, and the more stories she heard from Donna and Ed, the more she realized that Jason hadn't just been Travis's older brother. He'd been his protector, his mentor, and in many ways, his second father. The research process had been more emotional than Taylor had expected. She'd spent hours on video calls with Donna, listening to stories about how Jason would save his allowance to buy Travis new cleats when his feet grew too fast. She'd learned about the time Jason had gotten into a fight with a high school bully who'd been picking on Travis, and how he'd spent his entire senior year making sure Travis felt confident and supported. Ed had shared stories about Jason's college years, when he would drive 4 hours each way to watch Travis's high school games, never missing a single one despite having his own demanding schedule at the University of Cincinnati. Kylie had told her about the way Jason still worried about Travis before every NFL game, texting him the same good luck message he'd been sending for 15 years. But the story that had really shaped the song came from an unexpected source, one of Jason's former Eagles teammates, who told Taylor about a conversation he'd overheard in the locker room during Jason's final season. "Travis had just gotten engaged to you," the teammate had explained, and someone asked Jason if he was worried about losing his best friend to marriage. Jason said, "I raised that kid to be the kind of man who deserves an incredible woman. If he found one who loves him back, then I did my job right." That conversation had made Taylor understand that Jason didn't just love Travis as a brother. He was proud of him in the way a father is proud of a son he's helped raise. "Actually," Taylor said, standing up from the table as Kylie started to clear the dinner plates, "before we do cake, I have something for Jason." "Babe, we already did presents," Travis said, confused. "You gave him that signed Eagles jersey from the '04 Super Bowl team." "This is different," Taylor said, her voice becoming more serious. "This is something I've been working on for a while." Jason looked around the table, clearly puzzled. "Taylor, you didn't need to get me anything else. That jersey was incredible enough. I've been wanting that Brian Westbrook signature for years." "Trust me on this one," Taylor said, pulling her guitar case out from behind the piano where she'd hidden it earlier in the evening. "But I need everyone to just bear with me for a few minutes." The room fell quiet as Taylor pulled out her acoustic guitar and settled into the chair she'd positioned earlier near the fireplace. The warm light from the flames cast shadows across her face as she tuned the strings, her fingers moving with the practiced ease of someone who'd been playing for decades. Everyone in the room knew they were about to witness something special. When Taylor Swift brought out her guitar at a family gathering, it usually meant she had something important to say that could only be expressed through music. "Jason," Taylor said, looking directly at him, "I've spent the last year and a half getting to know your family, and there's something I've learned about you that I don't think you fully understand about yourself." Jason shifted uncomfortably in his chair, clearly not used to being the center of this kind of emotional attention. He was more accustomed to being the one who deflected serious moments with humor. "When I first started dating Travis, everyone warned me about how close the Kelce brothers were. They said I'd have to win over Jason if I wanted things to work out with Travis, but what they didn't tell me was that the reason you two are so close is because you've been taking care of him his entire life." Travis looked between Taylor and Jason, starting to understand where this was going. His expression was shifting from confusion to something deeper, a recognition that he was about to learn something important about his own life. "So I wrote you a song," Taylor continued, "because sometimes the best way to say thank you is with music." She began to play, her fingers finding the opening chords of a melody that was both haunting and hopeful. The song had taken her weeks to perfect, not because the music was complicated, but because she wanted every word to carry the weight of everything she'd learned about the brothers' relationship. When she started to sing, her voice filled the room with a warmth that made everyone lean forward to catch every word. There's a story about a little boy who looked up to his big brother's eyes, said, "I want to be just like you someday." And his big brother said, "Here's how you try." He taught him how to throw a spiral tight, how to stand up when the bullies came around, how to be brave when the world felt too big, how to get back up when you're knocked down. That's a big brother's heart, always putting family first, taking the hard hits so the little ones don't hurt. That's a big brother's heart, the strongest kind of love you'll ever know. Watching from the sidelines, helping dreams grow. That's a big brother's heart. Jason's eyes were already starting to well up with tears, but Taylor wasn't finished. She could see Donna reaching for Ed's hand, could see Kylie covering her mouth in amazement, could see Travis staring at Jason with a look of dawning understanding. "Remember when he broke his wrist in 7th grade? And you carried his books for weeks. Remember when he didn't make the varsity team and you taught him what it means to believe you were 18, working summer jobs to help pay for his football camp? You were 21 giving up your weekends to drive him to where his dreams began. That's a big brother's heart. Always putting family first, taking the hard hits so the little ones don't hurt. That's a big brother's heart. The strongest kind of love you'll ever know. Watching from the sidelines, helping dreams grow. That's a big brother's heart. But then Taylor sang the verse that would change everything for both brothers. The lyrics that had come to her in the middle of the night when she'd finally understood what she wanted to say. Now he's the man that I fell in love with, kind and strong and true. And every good thing that he knows how to be, he learned by watching you. So when people ask me what made him this way, why he loves so deep and fights so hard, I tell them about a big brother who gave him a champion's heart. That's a big brother's heart. Always putting family first. Taking the hard hits so the little ones don't hurt. That's a big brother's heart. The strongest kind of love you'll ever know. Watching from the sidelines, helping dreams grow. That's a big brother's heart. As Taylor played the final chords, the room was completely silent except for the sound of people trying not to cry. Jason had tears streaming down his face, and Travis was staring at his brother with an expression of pure gratitude and love. The silence stretched for a moment as everyone processed what they'd just heard. It wasn't just a song. It was a recognition of something beautiful that had been happening in their family for decades. Something that everyone had felt, but no one had ever put into words. "Jason," Taylor said softly, setting down her guitar, "I need you to know that every good thing I love about Travis, he learned from you. His loyalty, his work ethic, his sense of humor, the way he takes care of people, that all came from having you as his big brother." Jason wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, clearly overwhelmed. "Taylor, I don't know what to say. That was—" "You don't have to say anything," Taylor replied. "But I do need you to know that you're not just Travis's brother to me. You're my brother too, and I wanted to make sure you knew that." That's when Travis stood up from his chair and walked over to Jason, pulling him into a hug that had been 30 years in the making. The two brothers held each other in a way they hadn't since they were children, both of them crying openly now. "Jace," Travis said, his voice thick with emotion, "I never told you how much all of that meant to me. I just thought it was what big brothers did." "It is what big brothers do," Jason replied, his voice muffled against Travis's shoulder. "But I did it because I loved you, not because I had to." "I know that now," Travis said, "and I'm sorry it took me this long to really understand what you sacrificed for me. All those weekends you spent driving me to camps instead of hanging out with your friends, all the money you spent on my equipment, all the times you stuck up for me. I'd do it all again," Jason said simply, 100 times over. Watching from across the room, Kylie was crying as she realized that this moment wasn't just about the brothers. It was about Taylor officially becoming part of their family in a way that went beyond dating Travis. "Taylor," Kylie said through her tears, "that was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Where did all of those details come from?" "I may have done some research," Taylor said with a small smile. "Your mother-in-law is very good at telling stories." "She interviewed all of us," Donna said, laughing through her own tears. "Called me every week for 2 months asking about the boys' childhood. I thought she was just being a good girlfriend, trying to understand Travis better." "I was," Taylor said. "But the more I learned, the more I realized that understanding Travis meant understanding Jason too. They're not just brothers. They're two halves of the same story." Ed Kelce, who had been unusually quiet during the performance, finally spoke up. "You know, Taylor, I've been watching my boys take care of each other their whole lives, but I never heard anyone put it into words the way you just did." "That's because she sees things differently than the rest of us," Donna added, wiping tears from her own eyes. "She sees the love behind all the teasing and the competition." But the moment that would stay with everyone forever came when Jason looked directly at Taylor and said something that made the entire room understand how much this gesture had meant to him. "Taylor," Jason said, his voice still shaky with emotion, "I've spent 38 years being Travis's big brother, and I've loved every minute of it. But tonight, for the first time, I feel like I have a little sister, too." "Jason," Taylor said, starting to cry again, "that's all I've ever wanted, to be part of this family for real." "Well, you are now," Jason replied, pulling her into a hug, "and I promise I'll take care of you the same way I've always taken care of Travis." "Actually," Travis said, grinning through his tears, "I think Taylor can take care of herself pretty well, but it's nice to know she has a big brother looking out for her now, too." The evening continued with cake and more stories, but the dynamic in the room had shifted permanently. Taylor wasn't Travis's girlfriend who was getting to know the family anymore. She was family. She was Jason's little sister, Kylie's sister-in-law, and Ed and Donna's daughter. Conversation that followed was different too. Instead of the usual football talk and family updates, everyone found themselves sharing memories about the moments that had shaped their relationships with each other. Jason told stories about Travis that he'd never shared before, about the quiet moments of brotherhood that had happened away from football fields and family gatherings. "You know what's funny?" Jason said as they were cutting the birthday cake. "I used to worry that when Travis got famous and successful, he might not need his big brother anymore. But this song made me realize that it was never about him needing me. It was about me being proud of who he became. And now I get to be proud of both of you," Taylor said. "Because Jason, watching you be a father and a husband and a brother, has taught me what it means to love people unconditionally." Later that night, as Travis and Taylor drove back to their hotel, Travis was still processing everything that had happened. The evening had been a revelation for him in ways he was still trying to understand. "Babe," Travis said, reaching over to take Taylor's hand, "what you did tonight for Jason, I've never seen him cry like that before." "Good tears, though, right?" Taylor asked. "The best tears," Travis confirmed. "But can I ask you something? How did you know all those stories about our childhood? Some of that stuff I'd forgotten about myself." Taylor smiled. "I may have spent some time interviewing your parents over the past few months, and Kylie, and some of Jason's old teammates. I even tracked down a few of your high school coaches. You researched my childhood for 3 months to write Jason a birthday song?" "I researched your childhood for 3 months to understand why the man I love turned out to be such an incredible human being," Taylor corrected. "The song was just how I chose to share what I learned." Travis was quiet for a moment, processing the depth of thought and care that had gone into Taylor's gift. "You know what the crazy part is?" Travis said finally. "What?" "I spent so many years trying to prove to Jason that I didn't need him to take care of me anymore. But tonight, listening to you sing about all the ways he shaped who I am, I realized I don't want to not need him. I want to need him because he's my brother and I love him." "That's exactly what family is supposed to be," Taylor said. "People you choose to need because you love them, not because you have to." "And now you're part of that too," Travis said. "Jason meant what he said about being your big brother. You know that, right?" "I hope so," Taylor said, "because I've never had a big brother before, and I have a feeling Jason's going to be really good at it." 3 months later, when Travis proposed to Taylor in their backyard garden, Jason would be the first person he called. And when Jason answered the phone, the first thing he would say is, "Did my little sister say yes?" Because that night, with a song that honored the past and celebrated the present, Taylor Swift hadn't just given Jason Kelce the best birthday gift he'd ever received. She'd given him the family he'd always dreamed of having. What do you think about this incredible moment of family bonding? Have you ever had someone recognize and celebrate a relationship in your life that you thought went unnoticed? Sometimes the most powerful gifts are the ones that help us see ourselves and our relationships more clearly. If this story touched your heart and made you think about the people who shaped who you are, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more untold stories about the moments that define our favorite celebrity relationships. Because sometimes the most beautiful love stories include learning to love not just the person, but everyone who made them who they are.